So I guess it's finally time to talk about this. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the finale of the TSGW predictions game. I've put this off for too many weeks. I think it would be about, 3 weeks by the time, 4 weeks maybe? Time's flown since that final episode. And it's finally time to go through the results, go through our scoring and see whether you, the audience, won or whether I won. I had a long way to come back, but with the scoring system, it is completely possible. While we're going through, we'll also go through some of those talking points. A lot happened in the finale, and it's time to go through them. So we will be going through this little wonderful PowerPoint I've made. I will be around in the top corner, guiding you through, but we're going to go through this, and when we get to the most relevant points, I'll stop and we'll talk about those moments. So the scoring for the play-in round and the round of 32 is very simple. It's what we've done throughout Fight Night. It's 1 point for a correct winner, because we knew all the matches beforehand, so it's very simple. It's 1 point for a correct winner. Oh, whoa. Having a mistake there. Play-ins were very, very simple. I thought these were very simple fights when we scored them, and I think you agreed with me on both results. Scorpios were against Malice, and it was a relatively easy affair for them. Malice, they've had issues this season. They came in the previous season, looked pretty good. This season, I think they were pretty middling. I think we've seen Malice peak really in BattleBots, which is a shame. But I just think it's nothing to do with the team or their engineering. The machine is fantastic. I think it's just the limitations of that design. As for the other game, the other fight, it was Hydra against Defender. And I just don't think there was any universe where Defender was going to win that. Completely the wrong machine to fight for Defender. And Hydra went through into the round of 32. And so these were the round of 32 games. I got less right than you did. Let's go through some of the highlights. Endgame, we knew we were going to win. We both went for Minotaur. We both knew Copperhead was going to go. So we got the first 3 of those right. The first big mistake I made was with Glitch. I'm not going to be too upset with that. I had no idea Glitch were going to pull out. I had no idea the issues they were having. And maybe if Glitch had competed, they would have gone through. So I stand by that a little bit. I know people were kind of annoyed about Mammoth taking their place in the tournament, but you have to remember these tournaments are filmed, they can't have delays. And Mammoth probably was the only robot on standby ready to compete. I know people have said, Witch Doctor had an easy run through the fight nights, which, in some cases is probably a little bit true. But Glitch pulling out is not a producer interference. It's not a ploy against the producers. For the producers against robots fighting Witch Doctor. There's been a lot of toxic atmosphere online, and a lot of it surrounding Witch Doctor. But listen, guys, they have to fight who they have to fight. They're not in any more control of who they fight than we are. You only beat what's in front of you. And my point was always, if you get into the bracket, there's no fixing from there. Really, you have to beat some of the best robots, even if Glitch pulls out. Witch Doctor, was on a collision course. If they got all the way with an Endgame or a Minotaur or a Copperhead, any of the Sawblaze, any of those robots, they'd have to be top quality machines to get further. So I was never annoyed about the Glitch result. It's unfortunate for Glitch. Hopefully they'll be back. Looking back on it, you could say a lot of Glitch's fights were lucky to some degree, but you know, I think I look forward to seeing what they do next year when they have a robot that isn't constantly breaking on them. I think they could be very exciting. Sawblaze obviously got the win. We both went for that one. And then the other big shock was P1 versus Hypershock, and we both went for Hypershock. We should have had more faith in P1, who got the win there. Fantastic moment for them. And, you know, just shows that, you know, in some degrees, control lifters still have a place in BattleBots. P1 getting a fantastic win, and I don't know where this leaves Hypershock. I just don't know. My partner said Hypershock was going to win the whole thing, so she had quite a bit of egg on her face after this week. But yeah, fair play, P1. Hypershock going through. Sorry, P1 going through, Hypershock going home. Fantastic result for them. At the time I made this prediction, I was umming and ahhing, and I really should have gone for Uppercut, really. So I do regret that. But it was Uppercut getting the win over Huge. Both machines getting stuck there. So, you know, people who had thought Uppercut, there were a couple of people who voted who thought Uppercut would go really far in the championship. You know, I didn't think, you know, after that I was having worries about it, but obviously just looking at the result, I was wrong. We weren't wrong, either of us, about Riptide against Shatter. Some people did go for Shatter from the audience, and I can see why they were going for it, but Riptide just have a really good design there. You know, we see it in lower weight classes, and you know, they did really well there. Hydra against Ribbot. You guys went for that froggy boy Ribbot. I went for Hydra. I just thought that Hydra would, you know, throw them around, and that's what they did. One of my favourite flips from the entire BattleBots history, and maybe even Robot Combat, was Ribbot going up in the air and then slamming onto the screws like a back dive. That was a lot of fun. We both got Mad Cattle winning wrong. Black Dragon got the win. You guys were so close on the Mad Cattle one that it was, I think it was literally one vote in it for Mad Catter. But, you know, just went the wrong way in the end. I know a lot of people who voted Black Dragon. A lot of people voted Black Dragon out of the audience, but yeah, there was one more vote in it for Mad Catter. I obviously had Mad Catter doing a deep run. We'll see later on that I was very, very wrong with that. I had Valkyrie beating Blip. I just didn't think Blip would withstand a spinner. And they did, in a short answer, and Blip immediately went up in my estimations as a title contender. You know, all throughout the fight nights, I was saying Blip hasn't fought a big spinner yet. It hasn't fought someone who can damage it properly. So then I went against it when it fought Lockjaw, because I was like, well, it's a spinner. But then they sort of held up well, and I was like, well, Lockjaw's not a massively damaging spinner, but Valkyrie is. So I went for Valkyrie. I was wrong, and it meant that, in my mind, Blip stamped itself as a championship contender. Jackpot took on Tombstone. We both went for Tombstone, but Jackpot got the win in what was it was like a two-hit fight, basically. And Tombstone has had this trend now of hitting a robot and dying, and it never used to do that. But it's doing that now. And Tombstone was a completely new machine this year. And again, the pundits on the internet are saying, oh, a Tombstone finish, this is the end of Tombstone. No, it's not. It's just that every robot arm is against Tombstone, because they are the ones to be feared, and so many people fight that with their robots with Tombstone in mind. And Jackpot might have lost another day because they were crab walking, and if Tombstone hadn't have broken, you know, Jackpot would have been finished. It was a 50-50 defeat, that one, and I don't think we should read too much into it whether Tombstone's finished or not. They've had a horrid run this year, but they'll be back and they'll be formidable. maybe not championship contenders, maybe that time's over for them, but I think we're going to, you know, quarterfinals appearance, potential semi, I think is always on the cards for Tombstone. It just depends who they get in the fight nights, what their seeding is, and how the bracket falls for them. But, you know, they're not finished in any shape of the word. We both went for Whiplash, nothing to see there. This was the other fight. I should have gone for Cobalt. I went against my own bias because I'm generally quite biased towards Cobalt because of the British connection. So I made sure not to try and judge it fairly, but I think in the result I judged it unfairly and went against them with Yeti. And that was a big mistake. And it was one, when I look back on it after the video had been published, that I was like, oh, I should have gone for Cobalt, really. But yeah, I went for Yeti and got it wrong. You guys got it right. We also both got the Rotator Captain Shredderator fight correct, and the Tantrum Gigabyte fight right. What a fight Tantrum versus Gigabyte was. That Gigabyte hit on Tantrum from the shelf onto Tantrum. Fantastic. But we got both of them right, which means that the scores for the round of 32, you guys got 12, I got 9, which means that you guys are on at 76.5 and I'm on 57. I have a lot of catching up to do. Can I do it in the remaining rounds? It's time to find out. So, the round of 16 onwards, we didn't know what was going to happen. So, we have created a slightly different scoring system. If we can get the correct lineup correct, we will get a point, both you or me. So if we correctly predicted that the first round of 16 fight was Endgame versus Minotaur, we each get a point. If we could then get the correct winner, regardless of the lineup, then we got a point. And if we got the correct loser, regardless of the lineup, we'd get a point. So a good example of this would be if we got a fight, let's just say, right, let's think of two machines. Let's say we'd got Tombstone, and let's say these round of 16 was Tombstone and Blip. I thought it was going to be Valkyrie and Tombstone. And Blip and Tombstone still lost. I would get a point regardless of who it was against. I get a point because it went out in the right place, or it went through in the right round. It will make a bit more sense. I've actually bodged it up a little bit. It'll make a lot more sense when we go through it. But first, let's look at the lineups. So we have your lineups on the right as per usual, my predictions on the left, and the actual lineups down the middle. So as you can see, we both got Endgame versus Minotaur right. We both thought that was going to happen. We both thought Endgame and Minotaur would get through their round of 32 matches, so we each get a point for the correct lineup. I thought it would be Copperhead versus Glitch. You guys thought it would be Copperhead versus Witch Doctor. You got that completely right. We both got Soul Blaze versus P1 wrong, because we thought it would be Soul Blaze versus Hypershock. No qualms there with that. Well done, P1. Bracket Buster. You guys got Uppercut versus Riptide right. I'd had Huge going through, so I got that wrong. Hydra versus Black Dragon. We both got wrong for different reasons. You guys got it completely wrong with Ribot versus Mad Catter, actually, and I got it wrong because I had Mad Catter in there instead of Hydra. Blip versus Jackpot was the fight. We got it wrong because you guys said Blip versus Tombstone, and the prediction was my prediction was Valkyrie versus Tombstone, so I got both robots completely wrong there. Then it was Whiplash versus Cobalt. You guys got that completely right. I thought it'd be Yeti. And Rotator versus Tantrum, we got completely right, both of us. So let's see how our wins and losses stack up, and hopefully what I said about that example I made will make a bit more sense. So as you can see, yeah, here's a good example. So that Blip versus Jackpot fight, we obviously, you guys had Blip versus Tombstone, but you said that Blip would beat Tombstone. So because Blip won the round of 16 fight, regardless of its opponent, you get a point. So hopefully that makes a bit more sense, because you had Blip going through more than the winning. It sounds a bit stupid, but it makes sense, hopefully. So as you can see, you guys got some more points than me. You guys got 4 here, and I got 3. we both got Minotaur versus Endgame wrong. We both thought that Endgame would beat Minotaur. That's one of the only round fights that we thought we had the lineup correct. They went completely the opposite way. I breathed a huge sigh of relief when that happened, because having a team that wins multiple championships is boring, categorically. Bite Force winning so often was becoming a problem, and them removing themselves from the game was the best thing that they could have done, because Bite Force was so ridiculously difficult to beat. And I didn't want another robot just to take its place and be winning all the time. And it's good that Endgame is a machine that was vulnerable and could be taken down. We don't want these things to get stale. And I think America has had more of a problem than this, though, saying that everyone will say, oh, wedge flippers in the UK. Usually, machines struggle to retain for more than 2 years in the UK. But then you see someone like Original Sin and Robo Games, and they just sweep house every year. We don't want that to happen. So I think it's good that Minotaur beat them, and I think everyone was kind of happy. Naturally, I'm going to always root against the champion. That's just how it goes. In the Witch Doctor Copperhead fight, it was Witch Doctor who got the win. Good win for them. We both thought the Copperhead would win, but against different opponents. You guys thought they'd beat Witch Doctor, which is not what happened, and I thought they'd beat Glitch. Glitch were nowhere to be found because they pulled out. Sawblaze versus P1. The Sawblaze win, and if we'd known that fight was coming, we'd have both predicted that. I think P1, there's not a lot they can offer against Sawblaze, but fair play to P1. They went all the way to the judges, so they could be very, very, very happy with their performance this season on BattleBots. We both thought they'd be against Hypershock, which I think would probably ended the same way, but we get the points there. Sawblaze winning, despite having a different lineup to real life. See how that works. Neither of us thought Riptide would go on the run they went on. We both had them losing to different opponents. You guys uppercut me huge. In reality, Riptide absolutely tanked uppercut. There was sand all over the arena. It was crazy. They turned the battle box into a beach. And Riptide, fantastic rookie run. Is it maybe the best rookie run ever in BattleBots, excluding the first season of the reboot when pretty much everyone was new to televised BattleBots? Possibly. I think possibly the best ever rookie run. Next fight, Hydra against Black Dragon. Hydra got the win. I thought Hydra were going to lose against Mad Catter. Completely unfounded there. Mad Catter going out to Black Dragon in the previous round, and you guys thought Ribot would be Mad Catter, so you had a completely different fight, so you're never going to get that right, which is unfortunate. I had Tombstone against Valkyrie for this fight, which ended up being Blip versus Jackpot, so I had completely the opposite fight, so I'm completely ruled out of that. I feel like you guys were with Hydra Black Dragon, and you guys had Blip against Tombstone. You thought Blip would beat Tombstone, which is maybe not what I would have thought. I would have had Tombstone beating Blip, probably for the same reasons that I had Valkyrie beating Blip. But no matter, Blip fought Jackpot and won, so you get the points because Blip went through to the quarterfinals. Cobalt versus Whiplash is a controversial one. We got nothing right on that, but we need to talk about the unstick. People were upset about this unstick and about how this fight was relegated to a highlights package. Now, the thing about the highlights package is that BattleBots always this season have shown 7 fights and then had 1 on highlights. So they weren't going to change that for this round. They weren't going to change it for the tournament. They never were going to change it for the tournament. The other thing is people were upset about the unstick, about the lack of an unstick. But this is only in context with what happened later. But I know people was upset because BattleBots lied to them, because in the reality of the situation, Cobalt was said that their weapon was stuck fully on. In reality, they could turn their robot off. Trey, who's in charge of BattleBots Trobosky, thought that Cobalt was still unsafe, and so didn't unstick. And that wasn't communicated clearly enough to the audience in either the highlight reel or the full fight on YouTube. So it went to the judges, and I think people are kind of annoyed about the judge's decision. I don't really remember. It was so long ago. I'm very mild. Sometimes I feel very aggrieved in the moment. I don't think I felt this was a controversial moment. People said it was controversial. Then I think that just made it controversial. I don't think it's actually that controversial. The judges just they couldn't unstick for whatever reason. So they went to the judges, and Cobalt was winning that fight up to that point. So that's my my money on it. As I look absolutely dreadful. Bloody hell, guys. Could have told me. People are making out this controversy to be way more than it actually was. Yeah, it was a bit annoying they didn't explain fully why they got the unstick, but and yeah, I do think it is unfair that they made it seem like Cobalt's weapon was fully stuck on. They should have just said that the crew wasn't comfortable doing an unstick. You know, just say that. It's not a problem. Don't lie to our audience. The audience isn't stupid. Just say you're uncomfortable with it, and that's fine. We'll just move on. And then the judge's decision was fine. I mean, Cobalt was going to win, really, personally, I think. So, you know, that's fine. And if there's no unsticks, it's a simultaneous knockout and a judge's decision as well. So, I don't really understand, looking back, why this was controversial. But yeah, we'll talk more about unsticks later. But yeah. I thought we just need to do a little aside for this one. But yeah, I don't think it was controversial. I don't really know why. And so the final fight was Tantrum Mayor's Rotator. We got it completely right, spot on. We've been doing really well in that quadrant, getting it absolutely bang on. Let's move on to the quarterfinals. First look at the scores. Forgot to do that. Whoops. I got 5, you guys got 9. Unassailable lead now, guys, really, unless I get everything bang on, and we know we're not going to get everything bang on. So, yeah, well done, guys. You're outscoring me pretty well. Quarterfinal results. We got none of these right because it's getting so far and deep into the tournament, and so much bracket busting is happening that we're not going to get any right at this point, are we? The actual lineup was Minotaur versus Witch Doctor. We thought it was Endgame versus Copperhead. We both thought that, actually, and we were both completely wrong. I thought it would be Sawblaze versus Huge. You guys thought it would be Sawblaze versus Uppercut. That would have been an amazing fight. It was Sawblaze versus Riptide. It was Hydra versus Blip in a battle of the flippers. Neither of us had Hydra getting this far. I had Mad Cat versus Tombstone. You guys had Blip, but you had them against Ribbot. And the final one was Cobalt versus Tantrum. You guys thought it'd be Whiplash versus Tantrum. I thought it'd be Yeti versus Tantrum. So we had Tantrum getting this far. We didn't have Cobalt getting this far. As for the round of 16 results, part 2, the winners and the losers, we both thought that Endgame would go through to the semi-finals. In reality, it was Witch Doctor beating Minotaur. And once again, we need to go and talk about controversy. So welcome to Controversy Corner, I'm going to start calling it. We need to talk about Witch Doctor versus Minotaur. And we need to talk about 3 things primarily. We need to talk about unsticks, we need to talk about controlled movement, and we need to talk about people's reactions to this. This fight was a mess from start to finish. Unsticks have apparently, according to BattleBots, weren't really around in the first few seasons of the reboot. They've been added in recently, and usually they are edited out of the proceedings, so we just watch one clear long fight. I know that was the case with Quantum versus Blacksmith way back in season 4. They got stuck together, and they didn't edit out the first separation, but they put in on the edit them not being able to separate them later on in the fight. And there are other various examples of machines being unstick. I just know coming to my head right now. The problem with unsticks have been done everywhere now, really, in robot combat. They're done in the US, they're done in the UK. I was watching Robot Wars Series 6 yesterday, and they were doing on sticks then. It was just with RefBot, which I made a funny joke about on Facebook after it all happened. I made a joke that BattleBots needs RefBot. But yeah, there have been unsticks really since the dawn of the sport. You know, be it humans coming into the ring and doing it, or whether it be house robots. You know, NHRL has Brett the Brick, who separates machines. Robot Wars has the house robots. BattleBots has a human who goes in and separates them with a crowbar. The problem really with unsticks is that they've been really, really unclear with when they should be used. And because they've edited so many out, I understand why they edit them out, because it would ruin the flow of the episode. But it means that people aren't clear of the unstick rules. Now, we'll bring in some of the other quarterfinals. Blip, for example, shouldn't have been an unstick. They were stuck on the shelf. The shelf is a hazard, which you're meant to get stuck on. They didn't make it clear that if you're stuck on a part of the arena that doesn't move, you deserve an unstick, which is why Witch Doctor got unstuck, because they got stuck under the shelf, which is what they would have done to Whiplash had Cobalt not been on. So there is consistency there. The problem is that there just isn't very well communicated. Now, I know BattleBots have done a couple of posts to people. I think it's to supporters only, but I think these are important, and I think they will be published eventually. But they are looking at getting rid of unsticks altogether next season. I think that is the correct way to go about it. If you get stuck, unlucky, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. I think the only time an unstick should be given is when two machines are locked together, a la Quantum and Blacksmith, the example I used earlier. That's when I think an unstick should be initiated, when two machines are stuck together, and that should be shown on television. That should be communicated to the audience. The machines are locked together and they should be unstuck. I know that ruins the pacing of your program, BattleBots, but it's interesting. When machines get stuck together, it's interesting. There's far too much stuff in BattleBots, especially the last 2 seasons, that just hasn't been interesting. And people have been calling it out, maybe a bit more angrily on Facebook, but there is stuff that is less interesting. So editing in a stick together, 2 robots getting unstuck, it's not boring. The other thing that needs to be changed is what considers controlled movement. I personally think it should be the Robot Wars method. If you can move outside of your circumference, then you are mobile, which is what Minotaur was doing. Minotaur were mobile. So I think that should have gone to the judges. The reason that Witch Doctor didn't attack was because their ref thought that Minotaur should be counted out. The Minotaur ref was trying to count them out, but Minotaur pointing out that they did have controlled movement, so he wasn't. So Witch Doctor were just waiting for the count out. That's not their fault. That's poor communication between the refs. My solution, maybe have a third ref who oversees it. He can communicate with the 2 drivers refs, and he can count out. You know, he can initiate a count out himself, where he's not being screamed at by the Minotaur team, who I don't blame for that. I know people have said, oh, it's poor sportsmanship, don't scream at the ref. I don't think the refs have a problem with it in the moment. Remember, this is a competition. There's a lot on the line. Sometimes you are going to get snappy, and as long as they apologised afterwards, I don't think there's particularly a problem. Yeah, they weren't screaming at his face, they were just saying they have controlled movement. It was an animated discussion, and we know Minotaur are an animated team. If the rules were outside of your circumference, like in Robot Wars, we wouldn't have ever had that debate, and Minotaur would have kept Witch Doctor would have kept hitting Minotaur and kept causing damage. We wouldn't be in this scenario. You know, there is inconsistency this year with that move. With that, I think Ribbot was as controlled as Minotaur and got counted out, and that's where the real problem is. I personally don't like the counting out of robots who are crab walking, but I was okay to let it be because it was consistent. I think as long as it's consistent, it's not a problem. You know, we had Tombstone being counted out for crab walking. We had Ribbot being counted out for crab walking in the last 2 seasons. But then when Minotaur is doing exactly the same and isn't counted out, then there's an issue because it's not consistent. And I think simply if they can move outside of their circumference, they're mobile, then that completely removes any inconsistency, because it's really easy to tell. I know people want things where the refs say, oh, drive back to your squares, and then, you know, Witch Doctor can drive back to its square, and then Minotaur's got 10 seconds to drive back to its square. No, it doesn't work. It's too long-winded for BattleBots. You can't, if they're not editing in unsticks, they're not going to edit in that. They're not going to edit in a movement check. That's really boring, in my opinion. So I think just outside of your circumference is a really easy and quick method. If they can move more than just in a circle on the spot, then they're mobile, and the other team has to keep hitting them until they're dead completely. And then I think the final thing to talk about is there's been some reports that it's sort of spilled from not just being online hate to being in the arena, and apparently Witch Doctor was subjected to quite a lot of disgusting chants, people screaming at them for how they conducted themselves in that quarterfinal. And that isn't on in any way. You know, it's not football, it's not, or as Americans would call it, soccer match. You can't scream at these people, not when they've put all this time, money and effort in. That's not the audience we want to cultivate. Boo the result, by all means. Boo the result. We've seen people boo Robot Combat results before, but don't personally attack the team. It's just not on. Witch Doctor have done so much for BattleBots and so much for the sport. People love them. I've got a Witch Doctor shirt, I've got the toys. They are one of the most visually appealing robots. And you just can't attack them. You can't attack any team who've put that much money and that much effort into this show for your entertainment. And they get very little back. That's part of the problem. They get very, very little back. You know, you can criticize them. You can say, oh, Witch Doctor, you know, I get very worried about criticizing. You know, when I call a robot a lower tier bot, I feel bad for saying that. But that doesn't diminish my admiration for them. Even the worst machine has my admiration, because I couldn't do it. And to do it and put it on TV, they have my admiration. But it doesn't mean I can't not say, you know, well, this one, in the grand scheme of all the competitors, isn't the best. I'm sure they'll agree with a lot of the teams. But, you know, there's a way to criticize, and then there's a way to just be a nasty piece of shit. And too much at the end of this season has people being a nasty piece of shit. So yeah, just don't. Yeah, it's kind of controversial, but if you watch the fight back, guys, Witch Doctor is sort of bodying. I thought Minotaur was winning the first half of that match, and then Witch Doctor got the hit on the wheel and then winning the second half. If you watch it back, Witch Doctor actually bodying Minotaur for a lot of it. You know, this is one that I hope will dull in time, and people will go back and watch it and realise it's not really as controversial as people are thinking. Time heals, I hope. But yeah, Minotaur out of BattleBots this year. Witch Doctor through. Let's just all be nice, guys. Witch Doctor deserved it in the end, I think. Let's just be nice. That little aside out of the way, we can look at Sawblaze Riptide. We both had Sawblaze winning the fight, but we had it winning against different machines, Huge and Uppercut. You guys had the actual match was Hydra versus Blip. You guys had Blip losing, but to Ribbop. You got Blip losing correct, and I had Tombstone against Magcata, so ignore what I said. And then we had Tantrum against Cobalt. And I had Tantrum getting to the semi-finals, and that was correct. You guys had Whiplash, and that was wrong. And then we both got the losers wrong. You guys thought Whiplash would beat Tantrum. but it was Tantrum beating a Cobalt machine instead. So, you know, I had Tantrum in the semi-finals. I got 2 of my semi-finalists correct, and you guys only got 1, but you also got an audience. You also got a loser correct. So there are the scores. It was 2-2. You guys on 78.5, me on 59. I got two semi-finalists right, so I'm very happy. So these are the semi-final results and the winners, so we can go through them all. It was Witch Doctor against Sawblaze. It was a comfortable win for Witch Doctor. You guys had Sawblaze losing to Endgame, which meant that you got a point because Sawblaze lost in the semi-finals. You correctly predicted that Sawblaze would be a fallen semi-finalist. I thought Sawblaze was going to beat Endgame, and I thought Sawblaze was going to go all the way. They got absolutely bodied by Witch Doctor. So disappointing. I thought Sawblaze was going to win the whole thing, but they only get as far as the semi-finals. Next year is Sawblaze's year. In the other semi-final, it was Hydra versus Tantrum. We need to go and talk again about something in BattleBots. So, Hydra lost to Tantrum in the semi-finals, and I don't quite understand why everyone is so upset. Hydra won that fight. In every other combat show, event, anywhere, I think personally Hydra wins that anywhere. Hydra especially wins that in the UK. Hydra wins that fight in the UK. I'm convinced. But on BattleBots, Tantrum wins that fight. Don't hate the judges, hate the rules. I have said for years that BattleBots doesn't value flippers. BattleBots is a spinner's game, and maybe an axe if you're lucky. I think, for the record, the judges' matrix and stuff has been much, much better this year. Fights have, by and large, been correctly judged. And, you know, I think to the rule book and to the matrix, Tantrum versus Hydra was judged correctly. I don't think the judges have done anything wrong. Now, are those rules the fairest for all weapon types they could possibly be? I don't think so. But that's just the way BattleBots is developed. BattleBots is an enclosed space with now basically no flip out zones, no pit. So the ability for, let's say, less damaging weapon types to win is limited. And Jake Hewitt has admitted that in a YouTube video. He said that Hydra, this is not the space for Hydra. It will struggle in BattleBots just because of what it is. P1 are going away to build something different because they think they've got the furthest they ever could with a lifter on BattleBots. Whereas, I don't want to compare it to my favourite show. I am wearing a Robot Wars shirt today. On Robot Wars, P1 and Hydra could go all the way, theoretically. Of course they can go all the way on BattleBots, they could. But the odds are so stacked against them that it just needs to be acknowledged by us, the audience. We can't be angry at the result today, or the other week, sorry. We can't be angry at that because that's just the way BattleBots are set up. It's a spinner's game, which with occasionally a flipper or a lifter does well. I don't think we'll see one win unless it's very, very good and gets very, very lucky. But I've always said, if you're a flipper, you have to get a knockout. You can't go to the judges if you're a flipper because you're less likely to win. And whether they make some changes next year, I hope they do, maybe bigger out of the arena zones, get rid of that bloody shelf, or make it so a machine can't get off the shelf. So it is a true flip out zone. But guys, don't hate the judges. I mean, I've seen there's been some horrible things said to the judges online. Don't hate the judges, hate the rules, and don't scream at BattleBots and then you won't get heard. Just calmly explain what you think the rules should be. And I'm not quite sure personally, but the arena needs to be made fairer for flippers and less damaging machines and control bots, and the judging score needs to reflect that. I think damage shouldn't be the most scored category. I know on Robot Wars it was aggression. I go to Robot Wars all the time because that's personally my favorite. I think the reboot got it completely right, personally. Aggression maybe should be the highest scoring. Maybe they should just all be even. Damage, aggression, and control, is it? Or strategy, or whatever it is on BattleBots. Maybe they should all be equal. Maybe they should all have the same point scoring. And then basically to win, you have to win 2 of the categories. Which means you could be the most damaging robot in the world, but if you only cause damage and you're not controlled or aggressive, then you don't win. Because, you know, arguably under that, you know, maybe that's the way to go. Maybe removing damage, and I know someone said maybe like hits or shots or something, or effectiveness of primary weapon, because Hydra's not going to cause damage, is it? Unless Tantrum falls back down and breaks, it's not going to cause damage. So maybe that's the way forward. But I'm not annoyed. I wasn't annoyed at the time because that's what you expect. I watched it and was like, I literally went, Tantrums won that in BattleBots, and Hydra's won that anywhere else. That's just how it is, guys. That's just how it is. So either you help change, either you lobby like me and you help change the way BattleBots is set up, or you just expect that these judge decisions will come round. But there's nothing wrong with the Matrix. In and of itself, it's everything to do with the way it scores and the bias it gives. But yeah, don't slag off the judges, don't slag off Tantrum, don't slag off Hydra, don't scream and shout at people. Just, like me, calmly accept that is the way that BattleBots is, and try and communicate that you want it to be changed to BattleBots. So in reality, it was Tantrum going through over Hydra. I had Tantrum losing to Madcata, while you guys had Whiplash beating Ribot, which obviously was completely wrong because neither of those teams are in the semi-finals. But you guys still got a point, which takes your overall score to 77.5 and mine to 57, battering me by 20 points. Could I get it back in the final? Well, obviously not, because neither of us had these 2 finalists correct. In reality, it was Witch Doctor versus Tantrum. You guys thought it'd be a repeat of last year with Endgame against Whiplash. I thought it'd be Sawblaze versus Madcata. I went for a crazy run with Madcata. In reality, it was in reality, it was Tantrum beating Witch Doctor. I thought it would be Sawblaze beating Madcata to win the title. You guys thought it would be a repeat of last year, Endgame getting their second nut, beating Whiplash again in the final, which, thank God that didn't happen. And yeah, so Tantrum is the BattleBots 2021 champion. It's going to be a while before I can confidently include them with the Pantheon of Blight Force, Tombstone, and Endgame. But yeah, good job, seems reasonable. And as for the final scores and you guys, I have been battered by 20.5 points. You guys are the winners of the 2021 BattleBots prediction game hosted by me. Maybe we'll do something in the future for that little show called Bounty Hunters, which we know is coming back. Maybe we'll do this again. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll just wait till next season. But we should do it again. Maybe we'll change it up a little bit. Maybe we'll have some special guests or something. But yeah, thank you very much for watching over this whole time. Thank you to listening to me ramble for quite a while about the results. I hope this has been enjoyable for you to watch and listen to. And, you know, go and check out my other stuff. Robot Rumble will be beginning filming very, very soon, hopefully. And also, if you like other sports, if you like football or I think we might be talking about UFC eventually. I have been helping my friend out at Nice About Sports on YouTube. We've been doing some prediction videos, not unlike this, for the European competitions, so the Champions League, the Europa League, and the UEFA Conference League. Go and check them out. We should be doing another thing in the next few weeks. We're going to try and do things sort of weekly. So if you like sports, particularly football, and you like discussions, you want to see my ugly mug talk about football, then go and check out Nice About Sports. The link is in the description. You can go and watch the first 3 videos that we've done, and hopefully we'll have a lot more. So go and show him some love. Thank you very much for watching this season of the BattleBots prediction game. We'll be back with some other stuff in the interim before we get on to Robot Rumble. Thank you very much for watching. See you guys soon.